happy to be here at the Conservation Center. Can you tell us a little bit about the scope of work that you do here?
Oh, sure. Well, the Conservation Center is celebrating its 30th year. So we opened in 1983 as a small painting studio, and now over the years we've gradually expanded to be the largest privately owned conservation lab in the country. So we work on paintings, works of art on paper, books, frames. We do custom framing. We have a furniture department, as well as objects, in addition to our full-time art handling team as well. It's all in-house.
Well, what's the most unusual object that's come to the center?
Oh my gosh, I feel like we have unusual objects that come through every day. I guess like what's unusual that comes through is we do a lot of disaster response at the center, so we're on call 24/7. So it could be, you know, a small collection of 1 or 2 items all the way up to a collection of 6,000 items damaged by fire or flood. So you never know what call you're going to get or what kind of piece you're going to see from one day to the next.
So whenever there's a hurricane, you have to go out and...
Yeah, so we have responded to Hurricane Katrina. We were just in New York for Sandy, assisting galleries out in the Chelsea area. And you know, it's really nice to be able to assist people in need and be able to preserve artwork as well.
Well, we've brought 8 paintings from our collection, our WPA collection, here for treatment before we take them to an exhibition at the Figge Art Museum. And I understand that you are responsible for doing all of the treatment on those works. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, and it's been quite a pleasure.
So what are some of the things you've noticed about the work that we have brought here to the Conservation Lab?
Most of the paintings are in fairly good condition. They kind of just need a little bit of freshening up. They have little minor issues like some flaking, some old repaint that's changed. Some are just a little bit grimy. And so for the most part, the collection's in great condition, but you do have a few challenges.
Well, what about the art materials that were used at that time period? I mean, when we think about the Great Depression, there wasn't a lot of money, and I would guess that some of the materials probably weren't of the highest quality. Is that what you've discovered?
Definitely, without a doubt, WPA art is usually made with materials, very thin canvases, very thin grounds, very thin paint, because all of those things cost a lot of money during that time. So the construction of a lot of them are not great, and they generally have a lot of condition issues because of the construction of them. The apple harvest painting you brought in is on an incredibly thin canvas, and over time, when you brought it into us, it has 12 patches on the back because it had torn so many times over the years. And that's just a pretty common thing with WPA.
This is your next project?
Yes, and this painting has some pretty severe problems actually. It looks very good if you look at it just from the front straight on, but the minute you get a raking light across it, you notice that it has tons and tons of micro cracks throughout it that are actually lifting and they're insecure. And so if anything touches it or it moves in any manner, the paint is just going to pop right off. This happens because there's actually a very poor adhesion either in the paint to the ground layer or the ground to the canvas layer. So again, poor materials.
Well, I'm here with Josh McCauley, who is the conservator of frames and gilding here at the Conservation Center. And we've already had the opportunity to look at how paintings are conserved and hear a little bit about that process. And now we have the opportunity to talk with you about how you work on frames and how you conserve those frames. What can you tell us about these frames from the Federal Art Project period?
Most WPA frames are going to be usually a standard, kind of a simple profile. At least that's what I've seen. A lot of them are put onto the painting by the artist, so it is kind of sometimes whatever they had around, or it was done by an institution. There was multiple pieces being made. Maybe it was a large molding supply that they bought from and cut the frames per individual, so a lot of them are very simple. Or there's artist-picked frames, which this Abercrombie most likely is. Most of her pieces that I've seen are just a frame that she liked, but then she didn't like gold or the different look it had. In this case, it seems to be like almost like a milk paint, water-based, water-soluble gray paint. This one is again more of like almost probably just an oil, like an oil house paint or something you would actually paint trim with. Gray is very common. Brown, off-white with like a little bit of a reddish tone to it. At least that's been my experience.
You have a great team of conservators. We've talked to your paintings conservator and your works on paper conservator and your frame conservator. It seems like it's just a very complex organization and they all work well together. And can you talk a little bit about just the day-to-day operations of a conservation?
Oh, sure. So we have 27 full-time employees here. And it's really fun to collaborate with everyone. Since we have so many specialists with such diversities under one roof, we can collaborate on mixed media items. We can really provide complex solutions to items that have or that are complicated in nature, whether it's a mixed media contemporary piece or old master painting with a gilt frame. So we really like to be able to provide a full service for our clientele.
Well, we have this wonderful Federal Art Project collection, and it's not just about the work, it's really about the history of the work, and that's probably something you hear a lot about when you talk with clients, is what those works mean to the individual or the institution.
It's really nice to be part of such a historic and important project like that, and being able to preserve the integrity of the pieces, as well as also the history of the collection for Western Illinois University.